This is Secret America.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jack Danger along with Jay Gatling, and we have a very special guest for you today. Today's a special episode. As you know, we usually do Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, but we have such a special guest for you today. He's going to talk about his amazing trip to Israel and the things that he saw. And we're going to talk to him about a few other things. But first, real quick, let me mention our sponsors, maxassociates.etsy.com, the #1 place for USA Pride gifts and patriotic apparel. Scan the QR code at the top right or go to maxassociates.etsy.com right now. Every single one of their products, 10% off. But if you're watching Secret America and you use the code SECRET20, secret and the number 20, you can get 20% off your order and free shipping anywhere in the United States. You don't want to miss out on it. It's America 250 right now. And we got the 2026 midterms coming up. So you want to show people where you stand. Show people, show America, show some pride for the country when the other side is trying to make pride for your country look like racism, look like transphobia, whatever they want to make it look like. So just check it out, maxassociates.etsy.com. Also, the rumors are true. The book is out, By Design, The First Black President. It is the book that comes at the entire thing as if the conspiracy theories were true. It is a fictionalized version of the events, but most of it is true. I mean, 75% of it is true. The other 25% is not the official government narrative, so they don't consider it true, at least in terms of the court rulings and things like that. So check it out, though, because you will absolutely love it. If you've ever heard any of the conspiracy theories about America's first black president, you are going to want to read this book, because it goes through it all, and it reads like a cinematic thriller, a movie playing in your head. It is not a book that talks at you. Check it out, secretamericalive.com. All right. So, Jay, I just want to say good morning to everyone and welcome to Secret America. Today, we're honored to welcome back one of the most talked about voices in medicine and public policy, Dr. Robert Malone. Fresh off his return from Israel, we'll discuss what he witnessed firsthand, the latest developments surrounding the Fauci hearings, and the stories the mainstream media isn't talking about. You will not want to miss this one. Let's welcome in Dr. Robert Malone. Doctor, how you doing today?
Hi guys, I'm here. I'm caffeinated. I'm a little jet lagged, but let's go.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on here as your first show since your return trip from Israel. And before we even ask any questions, I just want you to go ahead and go through whatever you would like to say first about what you witnessed or anything like that.
So this was a really troubling, for me, visit. We all have various stereotypes, and if you haven't been to Israel or visited the Holy Land, it's really easy to get influenced by the huge cloud of propaganda that surrounds us. Mm-hmm. And that propaganda is highly paid for. It's very substantially endorsed. And a lot of people aren't aware that it's not just Iran funding Hezbollah and Hamas, but in particular, it's Qatar, or Qatar, as many in the Middle East call it. And that's the wealthiest nation in the globe right now. It has huge amounts of capital. So I think the core dilemma that the Israelis face, that I find very challenging as I try to wrestle with it, is how do you respond when your neighbor explicitly wants, or your family has, of having been subjected to efforts to exterminate you, efforts that during World War II resulted in about a third of the entire Jewish population on the globe having been eliminated in the Nazi ovens or in other ways. I mean, the psychological trauma of that I find really hard to come to terms with. And we visited the Holocaust Museum in Israel, and I've been to Dachau and Auschwitz in the past myself.
Really? And
So
did you see the ovens then? Did you get to see the
yes,
ovens?
absolutely, absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely.
Wow.
So Albert McFry, these things are very real. And how does a country and a people that is deeply committed to the value of life, and I saw this really clearly during my tour in so many different embodiments of various organizations, non-governmental organizations, and the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, acting to preserve life, particularly for children, and making medical care available to Palestinians, training Palestinians in medical procedures, and Syrians, acting to preserve life, and yet confronting this existential threat. And personally, I don't know about you, I find that really troubling, because as I encounter this, it makes me fucking mad. I feel empathy for these people that are being subjected to this day in, day out. I mean, as I put in the essay that I published yesterday that got good traction, the wolf is at the door. I mean, I visited those kibbutz that were attacked and destroyed on October 7th. I listened to people who experienced that directly. I visited the Nova site where that rave, or whatever you want to call it, was happening, that got attacked. I spoke with and listened to a Israeli who had been there in his tent, trying to get some sleep when the rocket started, and who managed to escape and survive because of the beneficence of a Bedouin Arab who basically saved his life and that of his companions that were with him, and shared the experience of having lived through this and seeing women massacred. I saw the site and read the stories about the atrocities that occurred. And then the pulling back of captives and using those as weapons of war. That if you see that, you talk to these people, you encounter this, and you're sincere in trying to process, what would you do? I mean, as for me, this is the question I ask myself: how would I respond to this if I was there, whether you're Jewish or not?
I guess a lot of people haven't thought about it like that. That makes sense. But before we go any further, real quick though, I want to ask, what made you want to take this trip?
So I have a friend who was a producer at Epoch Times, who is Jewish, who has taken this issue on of the campaign against anti-Semitism. And
you're not Jewish.
I'm absolutely not Jewish. I'm Christian.
Okay.
And I wouldn't self-describe as a Christian Zionist, but I ran into Christian Zionists who were from Tennessee, who were walking around with M4s that were issued by the Israeli army as they were mentoring farms in the West Bank that were under constant threat of attack, who had been subjected to improvised explosive device plants in around their homes. So that's not where I'm coming from. This was a trip explicitly structured around exposing right-wing or center right-wing influencers to the reality of what's going on there. We were given no direction as to how we should respond. There was no quid pro quo.
Wait, before you go, that's important right there, Dr. Robert Malone. Before you say anything else, that is very important, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, oh, he's Jewish, so but you've already clarified, you are not Jewish. You are Christian, and you were given no direction on what to say or what to do. And this is not a quid pro quo. You're not getting anything for doing this. This is just purely you trying to expose like you said, the center right wing and the right wing to more of this idea, rather than, because there is a lot of anti-Semitism and there is a lot of information. It's hard to tell what's true and what's not, especially in this day and age. So it's good to know, for everybody to know, that you weren't influenced on this in any way. You're not Jewish. You're not, you have no stake in this at all, except exposing the truth. So thank you for mentioning that, because that's very important.
Well, thanks. I wouldn't say that I have no stake in it. I'm a human being just like you two.
Yeah.
We, and I'm trying to process what I'm seeing. We have this huge cloud of propaganda that's around this issue. And frankly, I had stayed away from the whole debate about the Gaza Strip and the Gaza response and the October 7th attacks, in the U.S. military role in this, and the integration of the U.S. military with the Israeli military. All of that cloud I knew was a massive propaganda shit show. And so I stayed away from it because I knew that there was no way to, from a distance, to understand truth, to process truth, because I anticipated it would be a massive propaganda battle. And it was, in a sense, but what's happened is that, to my amazement and surprise, as somebody that wrote the book on psychological warfare, our Psywar book, the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force has been abysmal in their deployment of modern Psywar strategy in opposition to what's coming at them. They have just done a horrible job. And they've recently done something that I think is really ineffectual and naive. They've paid $150 million to have an internet campaign of automated interactions with influencers that is producing nothing. And so this was a totally independent initiative launched in association with this group called CAM, but not funded by CAM, funded by a American Jewish philanthropist from the Midwest who made his money on oil. So that's where this money is not coming from Israel. It's not coming from CAM. CAM, which is this committee associated with anti-Semitism, fighting anti-Semitism, was a facilitator of this, but it wasn't the organizer and it wasn't the funder. So that's for me, that was the journey, is going into this environment. And I'll say right off the top, I met with no Palestinians, for sure. That's a fact. I met with a broad range of individuals across the spectrum from within Israel, including Mike Huckabee, U.S. ambassador. So we got to listen to Mike. We got to listen to senior members of the Israeli cabinet. We got to listen to medical professionals of all walks that are providing medical services in the Negev, in the desert, up through Tel Aviv, very sophisticated capabilities. We got to, because we were largely a medical, basically the delegation was made up of people that you might say were medical freedom fighters during COVID. And so we had a very medical orientation, and the organizers arranged that we would interact with people from hospitals, etc. And then also, I specifically asked that we have a chance to learn more about innovative Israeli agriculture, which was fascinating. I mean, we saw a desalinization plant operating at scale that's crucial for providing water not just to the Israelis, but also to the Palestinians. That's how they're meeting their water obligations right now, is desalinization, cutting edge technology. and they ship this reverse osmosis purified water all over Israel. It's amazing and fascinating. But in the face of all of this, you have this chronic pressure of, as I say, the wolf is at the door.
Mm-hmm.
You have IDF kind of routine conscripts walking around, guarding with their M4 slung across their back. They all wear it the same way. Guarding small, you would think inconsequential little eateries along the road in the area around the heights on the West Bank. This situation where you're under constant threat has been normalized. It's the way things are. You don't see those M4s walking around in camo and green in Tel Aviv. You see some of them in Jerusalem, but you absolutely see it out on the border, or what I refer to as the Israeli frontier. And the parallels between what the Israelis are experiencing on a daily basis and what I saw as somebody who grew up in the Southwest in California, and very much the central valley of California. I went to school at UC Davis, hence my interest in the agriculture. I lived at the edge of the California desert, and I've seen that. It's very much like the frontier culture of the 1800s that the American West is very much like what the situation is in Israel. And I think a lot of us that are, let's say, more preppers on the right or the center right, I've got assault shotguns, tactical shotguns and sidearms and an AR at a firing range that I'm building right now.
Wow, that's that's awesome.
We think that we understand what it would be like to be subjected by hostile persons coming in and wanting to take our stuff and take our lives and take our liberty.
Yeah.
For the Israelis, it's not a concept. It's a daily fact of life.
Yeah.
And that's important. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to say that's important because a lot of people, especially in America, they see a lot of the propaganda or misinformation or whatever it is, and they can't understand what it's like to be under the constant threat of war or death or anything, because we don't border nations that want to kill us, and we are vastly superior to the top.
Maybe Canada.
Nation. That's true. But luckily,
they can't even beat us. They
They
can't even beat us in hockey anymore. So I'm really not worried about that.
But people, can't. Yeah, they just can't fathom that. So it's hard for them to comprehend how serious it is over there.
So that's what I'm trying to do in my essays. And the first one dropped yesterday while I was on the plane and got a lot of traction, but also generated a pretty good swarm of bots on X. And then I've got two more queued up that are really diving into, this. The one that I'm developing right now is around this issue. How, from an ethical and civilized standpoint, how do you respond to a neighbor that wants to kill you, that has been raising their children now over multiple generations to want to kill you, to want to eliminate you? How do you respond to that if you don't want to allow yourself to be like the other side, which is so easy when you're confronting this, to basically behave and functionally become like your opponent, and take the same ethic of saying, well, I'm just going to punch you back in the nose if you're going to punch me. If you're going to shoot my people, I'm going to shoot your people.
Yeah.
If you're going to take hostages and torture and rape, I'm going to take hostages and torture and rape.
But they don't.
And
but they
meet
don't.
strength with strength.
But they don't.
That's kind of, I feel that in my own soul, this anger of against what I see, and yet the tension there is, well, that's no solution. That doesn't work. That's not ethical. That totally the kind of underpinning of all this is the framing of Jews as subhuman in some way. That's been the history. And remember, it's a tiny population. There are not that many Jews in the world. You know, all this logic that they're the puppet masters that are controlling everything, it just fails the sniff test. But
logic.
When you're, you know, if you're this embattled minority with this long history, and they live that history. I mean, being in the Holy Land, that history is it's like it's yesterday. Everybody knows it. They're all remembering it and thinking about it. And how do you respond to this kind of threat and not become the thing that you are facing?
That's the hard part.
Yeah, I agree. It's really hard.
Well, there's this false equivocation, and it's been on purpose. And like you just said, you keep calling people Nazis in the United States, then it makes people think it's okay to go punch them in the mouth when they're not really Nazis. So you keep demonizing somebody, you make them the enemy, right? So at this, and it's also this false equivocation of it's not a both sides issue. If Israel, if Hamas lays down their weapons, war's over. If Israel lays down their weapons, they're annihilated.
The Abraham Accord, the thing that was on the table was a two-state solution. And the West Bank situation is really complex because there's these three levels of territory. And some of those territories, Jews cannot go in. They are Palestinian only. They are Arab only regions. And one of the fascinating things about that is that these Arab only regions are being built up with, multi-story concrete, kind of like apartment or condo buildings, and they're all empty. There's hardly anybody living in those. They're being funded by international NGOs and outside money. But the Arabs, quote Palestinians, which is really a construct in and of itself, they don't want to live there, and they're not thriving in those communities. Those are just they're Potemkin villages. They're facades put up for political purpose.
Are these money laundering operations? I mean, what's going on here? Why aren't they being utilized?
I don't think that, I don't know how to answer that. But I know the observation. The structures are there. They're being built. And there are no inhabitants, or very few inhabitants. The whatever you want to call them, Arabs, Palestinians, however you want to frame that, or members of Hamas or Hezbollah. It's Hezbollah there. They tend to live as they always have, in small villages on the ground. They're not the ones buying into these new modern structures. That's not how they've lived. Another example are the Bedouins down south in the Negev. The Bedouins have historically been a mobile people. They've lived out of tents. They live very simply. They're nomadic. And there's this effort by the Israeli government, from an ethical framing, to give them what urban and suburban people want, to give them permanent structures and houses and little towns and cities. And they generally don't. That some of them are resettled in that, but a lot of them don't live that way. That's not their culture.
Yeah.
And likewise, that seems to be the case with these residents of the West Bank that are ostensibly to be housed in these Palestinian secluded areas, but that's not how they want to live, and so you have this tension where these kind of unincorporated open areas that are gradually being converted into agriculture you have both Israeli and we'll call them Palestinian populations coexisting. I use that term loosely. They're cohabiting, let's say.
There you go.
Cohabiting, and they don't get along at all. And because of this multi-generational schooling, where you're teaching people to hate others.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm having a lot of trouble thinking through how this ends well, or even how it ends.
Here.
Happening in America right now. Same thing.
Precisely. That's my core point.
Yeah.
Is if you don't recognize that this can be your future, then you're not paying attention.
It's
I got to ask you, why do so many people think? I mean, there seems to be this illusion, this I don't know, this thing that where Americans seem to think that in 2026, it's 2026, it can't happen to America. This is America. It's not going to happen here. And people seem to be under these delusions that America is got a bubble around it and is safe from all the influences that other countries have gone through. That's not.
And yet the Biden administration and the Obama administration opened the door.
Absolutely.
And there is no question that we have sleeper cells here.
Oh yeah.
There's no question that at some point we may see these flipped on, and we're seeing.
Do you think they were done brought in here? Do you think Biden and the administration maybe let some of them in here on purpose for whatever reason?
So you're asking me to speculate about motive, which is usually where I draw the line.
That's fine
what
too.
we can say is we can observe the behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm of the camp that to ascribe any of this to Biden when he clearly was not mentally competent based on this recent testimony. It was others within the administration, I suspect.
Yeah.
But all of this has been wrapped around, as we're seeing happening in Spain right now. This is all coming from this globalist framing that it is, and the UN explicitly has this in their documents now, that we have to have open borders, that it's the right of human beings to migrate and live wherever they want to live. And if you buy into that, you no longer have a country. And so I think this is coming from this kind of squishy seeming, the term toxic empathy. I think Gad said talks about this, right?
Suicidal empathy.
Suicidal empathy. Yeah. This suicidal empathy idea that, and I think that personally, I think that underneath that's the facade. Suicidal empathy, and empathy is the facade. I think that the underpinning of that has more to do with cheap labor. It has more to do with the interests of very, very large economic entities that believe that they need to have free access to cheap labor, and that the labor rates in places like the United States are not what they want. They want to have these disempowered people that will do their bidding, process chicken fingers or whatever the hell, right, in the slaughterhouses.
What do you think about the idea that if they flood all these other countries, like with all these migrants, like whether it's America or all the countries in Europe or everything, that eventually there isn't individual cultures. Every country becomes one culture, the same culture as the other one. They're all it's all a third world country, basically, and then there's no borders.
The problem I have with that is the same people will talk about diversity and will celebrate diversity and cultural diversity. I think that's another facade, that logic. I don't think that's what's going on here.
What's
I
their
do
main
think
goal then?
when you think about Qatar
Mhm.
and Iran and the pressure of oil money. I mean, I don't know. Have you been to London lately? I'll just leave that there, right?
Yeah.
The there are big structural changes going on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's this alignment between Qatar, Pakistan, and Turkey that is emerging that we ignore at our peril. I'm sorry, I'm now to the point where I'm talking and writing about Islamic expansionism, radical Islamic expansionism.
That's good. That needs a lot more. We
Attention.
talk a lot about that also, because that needs a lot more publicity. It needs people need to know about this. We need more awareness of what's going on with the Islamic revolution all over the world.
And this is not new to Western
No.
civilization.
No.
This is a centuries old, really millennia old trend. Definitely centuries old. Last year in the summer, a friend of mine took us on their boat, and we visited some sites along the eastern coast of Italy, which is not where people usually go. So it was mostly Italians there, which is kind of nice. But we visited a town, I think it was Toronto, that has this Cathedral of Skulls. It's quite famous. And the story of this cathedral is that coastal city with a port, where the cathedral is currently located, was overrun by expansionist Islamic forces. And this is like in the 1100s. I may get the dates wrong, but this is a long time ago. So it was overrun, and it was a Christian town, Catholic. And the residents were given the option, after they lost the battle, to either convert to Islam or be killed.
Yeah.
And there's a stone on which the beheading was to take place. This is very blunt talk. Okay.
No, that's fine. That's good.
And thousands of the residents of this town said, no, we're not going to convert. And they were beheaded. Okay.
Wow.
And then, and buried. Remains are buried. And then a few years later, the Muslim forces were forced out. And the remains, the bones, were dug up, and all of these beheaded skulls were dug up, and they were placed into a church behind glass. So an ossuary that surrounds the altar, and in front of the altar is the stone that was used for the beheading. It is amazing to see it. Okay. And you can't encounter this if you're a thinking person without processing that this is a behavior, this is a force that has been pushing on Western civilization for well over 1,000 years.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that they'll be able to take over? Because the suicidal empathy thing, like you said, might just be like a facade, but they're using it to allow all of these Islamic and Muslim people in. I mean, you've seen all the mosques that are being built everywhere, especially in Texas, places like that. Do you think?
Ask yourself, where is the capital coming for that? That doesn't just happen.
No,
okay? That is not organic.
Is it Qatar?
Is that Qatar? Yeah, is that Qatar?
It's Qatar. Qatar is the major financier. UAE, for instance, is the shining opposite of that. UAE, United Arab Emirates, is it's still an Islamic state, but it welcomes all walks of life, all races. It's very progressive and open.
And look at it.
And it's advancing very rapidly.
Yeah, as I
Will
say, look
America
at it.
wake
It's one of the it's one of the most beautiful places you can go and expensive places you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Will
there's
America
that.
wake up before it's too late? Before there ends up being too, because we know that Islam and Islam is a peaceful religion when they're the minority, but as soon as they become the majority, they show their true intentions. So will America wake up before this happens?
I think that this is the essence of what I have to bring back from what I observed in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
This is arguably, for its size, the most powerful military on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly innovative. Our military, one of the things I learned is our military is using the Israeli military as basically a learning ground. The Israeli IDF is teaching the U.S. Armed Forces and the U.S. Air Force about how to fight modern wars.
Because they're in one. Because they're in one.
That's right. As I say, the wolf is at the door. This is not esoteric, what these people are dealing with. And so, you ask the question, are we going to wake up? Are we going to recognize what's going on? Not if the propagandists have their way.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially the situation here is from near as I can tell, is for various reasons, the Israeli government has just been atrocious totally paradoxical in their propaganda campaigns as compared to their opponent.
Messaging is horrible.
But their opponents are extremely well-funded, extremely sophisticated, and very effective. And they've managed to capture a lot of the globalist organizations like the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I hear, listening to Israelis and Israeli leaders talk about what they're encountering. You want to talk about toxic or suicidal empathy? They're being bullied internationally all the time, and you listen to them, and what you hear again and again is, "Oh, we don't do that because we're really afraid of the international sanctions and the response that's going to come at us." Stuff
paralysis.
If you or I were in that situation, so we would be going, stuff it,
But Jay is right though. It's stigma paralysis. That's the thing I sent you the other day about, Jay. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the thing that we were talking about.
The whole thing seems like a big case of stigma paralysis, afraid to be called the ist, the phobe. Just tell the truth. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. But so many people are when it comes to everything. It's suicidal empathy and stigma paralysis that'll be the downfall of Western civilization if we don't wake up and just.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the question is, how do you respond to this ethically?
That's the hard part.
While retaining your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, it's really tough. I think that the only available response for a people, let's say, or an individual. I mean, if you've got a neighbor, think about it this way. You got a neighbor, he wants to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
He says to you, "I want to kill you." He has guns. He practices shooting. He says, "I want to kill you and I want to take your farm." How do you respond to that? You can go and kill him, and then you become like him, right?
Yep, that's true.
Or you can build barriers. Well, diplomatically, what do we call that? Containment.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think that personally, and I said this to Ambassador Huckabee, I think we need to migrate towards a containment strategy for radical Islam. And I think we need to make it a formal part of American foreign policy. But the problem is that there's so much money. The oil money is so powerful.
Yeah.
When I mentioned Londonistan a moment ago, the paradox of the UK.
That's funny.
Well, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
The UK is it's a relatively poor nation. Let's be honest. They don't have much in the way of national resources. They've lost their empire.
That's true.
They have a huge social burden because they're socialists. So they have all the associated costs associated with that. And by the way, it extends throughout Western Europe now.
Yeah, the European
and
Union is
the European
terrible.
Union. Yeah, they've all got the same problem.
Yep.
This is the problem with socialism: is somebody's got to pay the bill, and when you run out of people to pay the bill, then the bills don't get paid.
That's what Margaret Thatcher said. It's great till you run out of everybody else's money.
Yeah.
Precisely. So what do? Well, there's all this money, all this oil money
Mm-hmm.
that wants to buy in, wants to advance the interests of its people, wants to sponsor mosques, wants to sponsor political candidates,
Wow.
all of that. And how do you confront that? The force of the pressure of all of these petrodollars coming out of the Middle East. How does a poor, socialist nation, with this, the experience of the UK was this expansionist empire,
Mhm.
and then it's like at some point they, with the situation in India, they suddenly confronted how ugly they had become, how much damage they'd done all over the world. And a lot of the European states are in the same way. Portugal, for example, Belgium, they've done horrible things across the world. And so they start to confront that. And they're like, oh my God, what have we done? Well, we have to make amends somehow. We have to be nice. We have to let these people in. We owe them a debt.
It's a boomerang. It was a boomerang.
Situation. Yeah.
Yep.
They boomeranged.
Yeah. And you just lose your culture. You
Hold
lose
it right there. You said something interesting before. You referred to the United Nations. I just want to read something real quick. Group of people who share common identity, typically based on factors such as ancestry, history, culture, language, traditions, and a sense of shared destiny, who often occupy or claim a particular territory. That's the definition of a nation. Now, the United Nations is basically the opposite of what the name in the title stands for at this point.
And the United Nations is another consequence of the logic that has been promoted by the Fabians. And that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but when you trace the history of the Fabians, people aren't aware. The book 1984, the reason for the date is that's 100 years after the founding of the Fabians.
Interesting.
Orwell wrote 1984 as his warning analysis of the consequences of the Fabian logic, the socialist Fabian logic that was being used, surreptitiously infiltrated into academia, education, the legal profession, all through British society and through the West. And that is the root from whence these things like the United Nations have sprung. And we're now living with the consequences. I was so glad to see Secretary Rubio basically saying, international court, you can go stuff it. We're not going to respect you. We're not going to buy into this. And when the president decided to walk from the World Health Organization, that was another win. I think I think we've got to pull out of the UN and certainly stop our funding. Tell them to go. Yeah, well, that is an explosive topic, and I actually argued for that. That the whole NATO alliance needs to be rethought,
Absolutely.
and we really need to look hard at its sustainability. When I was speaking in Romania almost 3 years ago, and there was people there from NATO that were they really got riled up about my talk. But, I think NATO has become a an aberration. I think it has really lost its focus and its purpose.
Absolutely.
And it's just developed this kind of institutional inertia that is highly counterproductive and no longer aligned with American interests. That is the essence of MAGA. Make America Great Again is at its core the idea that we are a sovereign nation and that we should look out after our own interests first. And that
it's funny how some Americans have a problem with that. How could you have a problem with that?
Well, the reason why you would have a problem with that is you were indoctrinated in the American academic system now and taught that we all have to be empathetic socialists, and that whole woke DEI suicidal empathy world has been very actively promoted. And again, this was the Fabians' specific strategy.
America
was to use the educational system to do this.
But America First, Dr. Malone, one sec, Jack, real quick. America First has been kind of hijacked into this America Only. And we're kind of talking about, and it the same group that kind of has the same view as on Israel, that you're trying to tell the truth, you're trying to say, no, you're wrong. It's that same kind of camp. So it's not America First doesn't mean America all by itself. There are certain things we still have to be involved in. We
can't be isolationist.
No.
That's the America Only, no more wars. The American military needs to be pulled back. I could certainly understand the pull of that, and that's always been one of the tensions in American politics is isolationism. We have the benefit of functionally being an island, a very, very big island, but we have the benefit of these two oceans. But the problem in applying that to places like the Middle East, as you pointed out, is that it always blows back on us. We cannot, whether it's Barbary pirates or it's the current situation around the Strait of Hormuz, we can't. If our goal is to protect the interests of Americans, we can't neglect the fact that America exists in the context of a global community, and we have to project power to protect our interests within that global community. There's just no way around it. And that doesn't mean that we should be the imperial capital of the world, as Steve Bannon likes to say about DC. And I think with significant merit, we don't have to be Rome. We don't have to behave like the Roman Empire, but we do have to protect our interests, and we have to project power in order to do it. And that means that we have to have a strong, robust, capable military that is willing to act where it can. And we have this special relationship with Israel and the Israeli military that is unprecedented in history. I heard some, and here's one of the nuances I learned that I had never understood before. Under Obama and Biden, they changed some of the policies about Israeli foreign aids. And they started to do what Washington always does with its money, with the states. It's the same playbook where we're going to give you this money. No, you have to take, no, really, you should take this money. You need this money. And then you say yes. And, this happens down at the level of local school boards and public health. You take the money and then, or roads, right? And then the next thing they do is they say, oh, but if you don't change this policy the way we want it here in Washington, then we're going to take the money back. Okay. And it's a hook. It's a corrupting bribe is the way DC plays the money game. Yep. And what happened is after October 7th, Biden basically pulled the rug out from under the Israelis. They told the Israelis were going to build their own, more of their own national armament infrastructure, start building more of their own weapons. And Washington said, I'm sure under the influence of the military-industrial complex, Washington said, no, don't do that. Continue to buy our weapons, and we'll give you some money to help you do it. Okay, but absolutely don't start building your own military infrastructure for armament production. And then they get into this firefight with Hamas regarding Gaza. And the Biden administration suddenly says, no, we're no longer going to give you the supplies that you need in order to fight this battle unless you change this policy or that policy or temper your position on this and that. And so the Israelis now are in the position where they're saying, screw it. We have no choice. We have to build our own military infrastructure. They were building a 5th-generation fighter plane, and the U.S. government convinced them not to do that and to take the F-35. And what came out of that, by the way, was all kinds of intelligence on how to build a better F-35. The F-35 that we have now would not be functional if it wasn't for the input from the Israeli Air Force. But that's the game Washington has been playing, and the Israelis are done with that. And what they're trying to do now, in cooperation with the Trump administration, is to restructure that. Instead of being military aid, they're going to set it up as a investment fund, a co-development investment fund that will capitalize both the acquisition and the building of military capabilities, armament, production, etc., as an investment. So that it then takes this as a quasi-independent. So it takes it out of the realm of Washington political gaming, where this party has this interest and then that party comes in and has that interest. If you're the Israelis, you kind of got whiplash, right? Mm-hmm. And Biden was the one that really made this clear. And so now they're taking the position that, hey, we can't really rely on the United States anymore. We can't rely on the American military-industrial complex. We're going to have to build our own, even though we don't have the personnel, because that's one of their big problems. They don't have enough people. We don't have the personnel to do this.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, well, and what it's going to do is cost American jobs.
Right.
Real quick, before we change to and talk about the Fauci hearings and stuff, I wanted to ask what was your main takeaway? What was the thing that you took away the most from this trip to Israel?
A recognition and an awareness that the situation is so much more complex than I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And that I have been this cloud of propaganda around me and around all of us is a gross distortion of the ground truth. That the Israelis, one of the things that really affected me was, particularly because we were visiting these medical operations, mm-hmm. was that at a very deep fundamental level, I think much more than Americans, Jewish people and the Israelis have a commitment to the value of life. That's something that we don't hear about.
No,
but
you don't.
Like we visited this Save a Heart Foundation, where they're training physicians to do open heart surgery, and they're training Palestinian physicians. They're training African physicians. They're taking people children from distressed areas all over the world, particularly from Africa, mm-hmm. But also now no longer from Gaza, because the migration across the Gazan border has just been clamped down for.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But the West Bank, they're still taking them, and they're treating them. They don't care what your ethnic or religious origin is, and also for the physicians, they don't care. They're trying to save lives. This logic of valuing human life, mm-hmm. which is not something that we think about when we think about the aggressive Israeli government and its genocide. This is the promoted narrative. That whole genocide narrative is completely false.
Garbage.
Absolutely. And that's why it's great that you had that trip, to Israel. We're able to share everything because I learned a lot today, so much more than any of the propaganda that you hear. I'm sure the thousands of people watching at home right now learned a lot as well. So we really appreciate that. We thank you so much for doing that. I want to switch real quick to Fauci because this is incredible. So a couple of years ago in 2022, he actually had an interview where he said, "Oh, I'd be happy to talk in front of any Senate committee. I got nothing to hide. I'll answer all of their questions." And then, let's fast forward to today, and he's pled the fifth 111 times, which you're actually not allowed to do if you've been given a pardon or immunity of any kind. So I just want to get your thoughts on the whole thing. What do you think about the hearings and the way it happened?
So I've written Substacks about this. I wrote one about middle of last month, really picking through what I thought was likely to happen. I thought that it was because by this subpoena, Rand Paul put Tony Fauci into the jaws of a dilemma. He the way I analyzed it, he could either lie, and those lies would be subsequent to his pardon term.
Yep.
So then he would be in jeopardy for lying. Or he would have to damage his reputation by acknowledging what he had done. And
His diary.
He's all about preserving his legacy and his reputation, right?
Oh, yes.
Right.
And so I thought that because of that Supreme Court decision about what happens when you accept a presidential pardon, which is basically an admission of guilt. When you accept a pardon, you're admitting that you're guilty of what I don't know because he was never charged for anything. The auto pen just gave him this blanket 10-year pardon.
Do you know why it started in 2014, the pardon? Because he was actually, believe it or not, the NIH and the Eco Health Alliance were funded to do bat coronavirus research in the Wuhan Institute of Technology. That's why the pardon went all the way back to 2014. So it makes you wonder when this coronavirus came out, they said it came from a bat wet market. That's what he tried to push, the narrative he tried to push.
And then he talked about pangolins, and the evidence is that actually there was pangolin genetic sequences involved in the recombination. That he has been duplicitous, so deeply duplicitous. And now we're learning about his ties with Bill Gates, Gates having Q clearance. I mean, the filth, the corruption.
How do you get that clearance?
Because you spend so much money subsidizing the NIH and the WHO. I don't know. I don't get it.
It's crazy.
But then we have this new story out that Fauci in I think it's 22 launched a mRNA vaccine company. It has that generic of a name.
Really?
Okay, and didn't tell anybody about it.
No, I didn't know about that.
Got major federal fund, like $40 million, which of course he was involved in getting the money for the company that he had started, and that now is being sold off. I forget who the purchaser is, but it's $1 billion plus. Okay, nice deal if you can get it.
Not bad.
The thing that has bothered me, as and particularly it becomes super clear when Rand Paul released these diaries, is you have Fauci saying one thing to himself in his little notes, cute little notes to himself about how important he is, and then saying another thing to Congress and the public.
Yeah.
And for me, so Senator Ron Johnson asked me, Robert, what, of course, all this is happening while I'm in Israel. So that was a little complicated. So he writes to me and he says, Robert, if you had one question to ask Tony Fauci, what would you ask? And I kind of pondered that for a day because that's a big domain.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say too. That's interesting.
The one thing that I really wanted to, if I could only ask one question, one question I wanted to get at was why he was abruptly shifting his position, particularly on the mortality, the lethality of SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah.
He acknowledged that it was essentially a severe flu, and then within a month, he was saying that it's this horrible thing with a very high case fatality rate.
Yeah.
What happened to cause him to go from A to B? What was the motivator? Because there wasn't data. It wasn't data that made that decision.
No.
And all the way through, as you read through his diaries, you see these conflicts of interest, and this self-aggrandizement. I don't want to diagnose him. It's not.
No, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah. But so I think we can say self-aggrandizement without getting into what is socio. I didn't say that word.
I'll say it.
But
Sociopath.
So apparently the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath is a psychopath is wired that way, almost from birth, and a sociopath, it's learned behavior.
Is it really?
Just good to know. Good to know.
That is good to know.
So in any case, what was it that made Tony Fauci hype the death rate? And because it reeks of conflict of interest. And now we learn about this company that he started. We learn about his perceiving his getting pissed off because Moderna was not acknowledging NIH scientists as inventors of the vaccine, which he didn't directly benefit from. He wasn't listed as one of the inventors, but his institute benefited hugely. And he's all about building the power and the infrastructure and his own power within NIH and particularly within NIAID. And not, if you listen to what he's saying, there's a saying, when someone tells you who they are and what they're thinking, you should believe them.
Believe
right?
them. Yeah, that's right.
And so you read this narrative that he's throwing down about his own self-importance and how famous he's becoming, and also these financial conflicts of interest, his pally-pally relationship with Bill Gates. It just reeks of hidden, undisclosed conflict of interest.
Absolutely. He was all excited about meeting the Kardashians, right in his unicorn diary. It's unbelievable.
By the way, what grown ass man keeps a diary anyway?
No.
Good question, Jay. Now that I don't know if you caught today's breaking news, just breaking before we started this discussion, was that my friends in Louisiana in the State House have now joined Alabama and Florida in investigating Fauci, and that wrapping back to his decision to take the fifth. I had, when I had done my analysis of his positions, I thought that what he was going to do is what he did before, which was I'm sorry, I'm an old man, I just can't remember that defense. Right?
I don't recall. Yeah.
So I thought that was how he was going to play it. But I did put in that essay, fortunately, that there was the possibility that he would take the fifth because of the legal liability, the threat that he faced from state lawsuits. Because we've all said, well, the way to get to Tony Fauci is to have the states go after him. Even though he's got a federal partner, right? That was how we thought we could potentially get to the bottom of this, force him to disclose what he did.
If they can prosecute a former president, local DAs can prosecute Trump. I think they should be able to prosecute Fauci.
Precisely. But the problem is that then gave him the cover to take the fifth, which is what he did.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, his ego wouldn't allow him to be like, oh, I really just don't remember. He can't do that. He just can't do it.
He did it once before, I think, big.
Though. Yeah, he did. He did
before.
In the hearings, in the discovery relating to the Supreme Court case that had to do with the censorship and the interactions
Yep.
with social media, etc.
Lying. He's lying.
Yeah. So I think that's where this is coming from, is he knows that the states are coming after him. I would like to see Texas join that case. I think that there seems like a reasonable chance that they would. Hopefully, Ron DeSantis is going to be moving on. He's no longer going to be running the state in Florida. And hopefully this continues on. But Jeff Landry is a personal friend, governor of Louisiana, and he's not going anywhere. He's got another term. I strongly suspect that he is going to be sitting there for a long time, and he has the cojones to do this. And I would like to see, this is the Confederacy rises again. The southern states forming common cause, because they seem to be the bastion of liberty these days.
Landry was
for everybody out there. Yeah, for everybody out there, let me ask you: do you think we'll ever actually get to see Anthony Fauci behind bars, whether it's from a state prosecution or
so this upcoming week, we're gonna get a taste of that.
Really?
So I also, a few weeks ago, at a conference for Feds, the Feds for Freedom. It used to be Feds for Medical Freedom. So this very interesting group of senior government officials that didn't want to take the jab have created this alliance they call Feds for Freedom. The CIA whistleblower is one of the leaders that was in the Senate recently. He's one of the leaders of this group. So I was at Feds for Freedom speaking about what's happened with Maha, etc. And one of the most senior aides from Rand Paul approached me. And I've never really had, Ron Johnson is a personal friend. We talk fairly frequently. He writes to me. Great. I write to him.
He's great. Yeah.
He's a courageous Midwestern businessman, that has been vilified. But so say we all. But Rand Paul's aide reached out to me, and we've kind of developed a relationship. I've shared some information that came to me that is classified regarding Ralph Barrick and what's going on here. And so she took my call when I had to go on a podcast. It was like a Real America's Voice or something. And I wanted to get some background on what they were going to do right after the hearing. And she told me that they were going to bring it up to a vote this upcoming week. And that the vote for contempt of Congress. I mean, contempt of Congress is a funny term. There is no question that Anthony Fauci showed contempt for Congress.
Contempt of Congress is a
yeah. So the contempt of Congress vote, it's likely to drop on party lines in Rand Paul's committee. Which means it's likely to pass on a narrow margin. And what she told me was that their hope was that instead of going to the full Senate, which is often the pathway when you have a contempt of Congress vote, that there's technically a pathway wherein the president of the Senate, otherwise known as J.D. Vance, could take that once it's passed out of committee and directly submit it to the judiciary, the judicial department.
Wow.
For prosecution. Now, at that point, it would be that that Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, has been convicted of contempt, and the only issue then is what the remediation would be. And remember that my friend Dr. Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon, their conviction resulted in 3 months in jail, and it was not a very pretty 3 months.
No,
and very strategically timed to take them out of the discussion leading up to the election, by the way.
absolutely. That timing
but
was no accident.
Absolutely not. Things, things like that don't just happen by accident in DC.
No.
So there's a precedent wherein Fauci could be put in jail for a brief period.
That would, even if it was for a week, could you imagine? That would be incredible, just to give him a little taste, just a taste, until we can get to the.
It would be
front.
something. But he has made enormous amounts of money off of this. Now, what I personally advocate for,
mm-hmm.
and I've been trying to socialize this on the Hill, I think that there should be a bill and a vote to strip him of his pension.
Absolutely.
That is a very simple, straightforward thing. He showed contempt for Congress. He hasn't been willing. He hasn't been open and straightforward. He's lied. He's misled. And remember, he in his opening statement, he accused Rand Paul, the chair of the committee, sitting U.S. senator, of being obsessed with him. It's all about, right?
He did.
You can't be more contemptuous than that.
No. And his pension paid him $400,000 last year.
He is the highest paid pensioner.
Yeah.
In the U.S. government, and I think that should be taken away at a bare minimum.
Absolutely. Do you feel that he should be stripped of his medical license?
Now, given what other physicians have been subjected to, I think there's merit to that.
Yeah.
But who I don't know what states he's licensed in or how many states. But for instance, my friend Ryan Cole
mm-hmm.
is about to go to a hearing in the state of Washington where they're trying to take his license there. They basically have destroyed his company. They've destroyed his living.
Why?
By withdrawing his license to practice pathology in multiple states.
Why did they do that to him?
Because he was prescribing ivermectin. And basically because of what he was saying. Remember, it's Ryan that coined the term the clot shot.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I see why. I know why they did it. Okay. No further explanation necessary. I get it now.
Yeah.
How about RICO? The RICO charges for Anthony Fauci.
I like the RICO strategy also, Jay. And it has the advantage of being able to pull in others. Remember that it wasn't just Tony Fauci.
Oh, no.
We all like to think of him, and there's a select number of individuals that we like to point to as the evil ones.
Yeah.
And Tony is one of them. Bill Gates is another one.
Deborah Birx, she's all over TV again, Doc. She's
Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab is one of them.
There's a number of and of course Tedros. There's a number of people that we like to point to.
What about Birx, Dr. Malone? What about Deborah Birx?
I think that we need to understand more about Deborah Birx. We're starting to understand more about Rochelle Walensky. That there's evidence that actually she wanted to tell the truth at a couple of times, and she was shut down by the Biden administration. I'd also like to know who I almost said the F word.
You can say whatever you want on this show.
I'd like to know who the fuckers were in the Biden administration that were empowering all of this.
Yes, so do we. That's like the number one question everybody we got to know that.
They need to be outed. And if we're going to hold Fauci accountable, that flows down, and we have a very small select list of heroes here.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott Atlas was one of them. And Robert Redfield was another one, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some evildoers. And then we have a whole lot of people that were put in a position in the bureaucracy where they could have said no, but they didn't.
Yep.
And this gets to, coming back to Israel and the Holocaust. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hannah Arendt book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Banality of Evil. And the Germans did this specifically with their policies. They made it so that no one person had responsibility for the butchering of the Jews.
Mhm.
It was all, well, I just turned the switch. I just drove the truck. I just drove the train. I was just doing what I was told to do.
I was
Yeah.
just following orders. The
Following orders
through.
was
Precisely.
that was their defense in Nuremberg.
Right.
Yep.
But the essay that I composed yesterday while I was on the plane, the one that issued yesterday, I'd written the day before, really examines the systemic problems that give rise to all of these, and it focuses on what happened in the Yom Kippur War, in Pearl Harbor, in the Gaza Strip, breaching of the supposed impenetrable wall that is. There's this huge history, the Maginot Line in World War II, of bureaucracies and senior leaders believing they had making major investment. In the case of COVID, the major investment, of course, was in the mRNA products.
Yeah.
And then systemically, no one feels comfortable challenging that system, that consensus, that belief around the infallibility of that, whatever that thing is that's been constructed.
Mhm.
And often that comes down to a high status senior leader who's endorsed that process, and it makes it so that nobody below them can question it.
Absolutely.
Functionally. And my point is that I absolutely think that the people that did wrong here, the evildoers, the leaders, they need to be held accountable. But it's all gonna, this gets to like the fourth turning logic. We have these things happening again and again and again over the span of decades, these major failures. And it comes down to systems, fundamental problems with how we are constructing and managing systems for responding to major threat events, whether it's Islamic expansionism or it's a infectious disease outbreak. We have to come up with better solutions. And the key thing here is that there are some industries that have done this well.
Mhm.
When was the last time we had a major failure in a nuclear power plant? Well, it's Japan, right, with a tsunami.
Yeah.
But
Maybe Chernobyl. Yeah.
yeah, Chernobyl before that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the nuclear power industry has been remarkably good
Yeah.
at avoiding major catastrophes. Another one that, in the example in this Substack that I'm going to be publishing soon, probably Monday. Example in the one example in the one on Monday is the airline industry also had a problem in the cockpit
Mhm.
where captains were king.
Yes.
And there was an example of a plane, a passenger plane circulating, I think it was Washington State, because it had a landing gear problem. And it kept circling while they were trying to figure out what to do about the landing gear problem.
Mhm.
And the lieutenant and the navigator in the cockpit kept saying to the captain, "You're running out of fuel." And the captain couldn't hear it.
Mhm.
And the plane ran out of fuel and it crashed and killed a bunch of civilians.
Wow.
And then the airline industry came up with a new training and a new set of protocols to ensure that you never had a situation like that again, where you have people that are aware of ground truth,
Mhm.
unable to communicate that up through the chain of command and get an appropriate response, which is absolutely what happened in the case of the Gaza Strip. You had young women that were tasked with monitoring what was happening on the other side of the border by the Israeli government, by Israeli intelligence. And they were filing reports saying, hey, we're seeing these guys plan to do something here. And it looks like they're planning an attack. And the model
Nobody listened.
inside of Israeli intelligence was that Hamas had changed, that they had an investment in the future, and they wouldn't do anything like this. And so the data coming up from below was rejected because it didn't fit the model. And that is exactly what happened in COVID.
Dr. Malone, I don't want to change the subject, but since we've only got a few minutes left, there was something we wanted to ask you the last time you were on. We ran out of time, so we got to ask you this time because everybody wants to know your opinion on chemtrails. You were talking about the planes just a minute ago, so it's a good segue. Many people believe, with a lot of evidence, that chemtrails exist, and in fact, recently, all over the country, the white streaks suddenly stopped for about a month. I mean, not in just some states, but it seemed like all over the country, and they just started back in the last couple of days. Tell me, what do you think? Do you know or think that chemtrails are a real thing, and are they affecting people?
I believe that weather modification technology is quite advanced, and it is being used globally for a variety of purposes. It is a tool of warfare. Yes, and it is being used as a tool of warfare.
Specific? Could you be specific on that so people?
Changing weather is one of the most powerful capabilities that can be deployed in the context of a conflict.
Massive rainstorms
in either direction. Yeah.
Hurricanes, whatever.
So I saw when I was in Belgium a couple times ago at the EU. I testified at the EU a few times. I saw this was not contrails like you'd see a known travel route. You know, we have contrails here in my area of Virginia coming out of Dulles Airport, and you know what the air routes are, and you can see them clearly, and they go like that. Okay,
you can tell. You can tell.
But this crisscrossing, interlacing pattern, that is not natural. That is not normal. That is not about air routes. I have a colleague who lives in Maui who's been tracking what's been going on there with weather modification for decades. And there's a lot of very sophisticated technology that's being used and deployed. It is a tool that has been developed, is being used, and the justification for deploying it widely has been wrapped around the logic of global warming, and that weather modification, essentially geoengineering, is necessary because of human activities. Now, what I hear from scientists, let's say dissident scientists, is that this whole global warming narrative is really a aberration. What you're seeing is relatively modest, normal fluctuations that are more driven by solar activity, sunspots, and things like that. And I'm also told that we do have a profound problem, but it has nothing to do with carbon, which is that the magnetosphere is shifting slightly. And the consequence of that is the Van Allen belts are changing. And that the risk is that we're in the West, we're going to start to see more and more of these aberrant patterns.
Would we get more radiation exposure because of the Van Allen belts?
Yes, and solar winds. And that this is really going to impact on electronics. That we have a major threat coming at us in our digital dependency that has absolutely nothing to do with human activity or terrorism or anything else, but has to do with the shifting of the magnetic axis of the globe, which is something we have absolutely no comprehension about and no ability to do anything about. But that's my take on this, is that weather modification technology is quite advanced. It is routinely being deployed. It seems to be deployed more in some areas than others. And I don't understand, why we feel it's acceptable to modify weather in this way using sprayed material.
A lot of people want to know, does this affect our health? This sprayed material, and all they want to know, one, does it affect our
How could
health?
it not affect our health?
And two, though, are there other reasons that they might not? I mean, obviously it's weather modification, but a lot of people think that maybe population control is one of them, or what, for whatever, because you know how the cancer rates have spiked and things like that, for whatever reason.
Yeah. So then you're getting into another, let's say, hypothesis space about population control. And if you read the Kissinger report, population control is absolutely an explicit objective of the U.S. government. Now, it is more focused on population control in various, let's say, emerging economy nations with significant natural resources, that we don't want to have a young, radicalized male population. So that the historic record is quite clear on that. And the statements and logic that are coming out of globalist organizations historically over many decades are quite clear. So
what are they?
Why would that have stopped? But
yeah, that's true.
To ascribe a specific thing, the use of glyphosate or atrazine or whatever, I think oftentimes those are better explained by more systemic problems of failure to account for all aspects of a policy. That I think what, so my point is that often what we think of, what we interpret, we see this behavior, it's inexplicable. It seems to be counterproductive for general human health or the interests of the US population in general. And we say, oh, those bastards, they're scheming, dirty, whatever, doing this to us because they hate us and they want all the goodies for themselves. I think that it's more often easily explained by the force of various financial interests,
absolutely,
exerting themselves on public policy in ways that don't take into account all the variables and costs. They tend to, and the Congress and the executive branch is very responsive to financial pressures because of a number of things, lobbying, etc. The president is very focused on the economy, stupid, right? Of course he is. And so when Big Ag comes to the president and says, hey, we need our atrazine and our glyphosate, then the president is willing to say, oh, this is a national emergency. We need to protect access to glyphosate because Big Ag.
What about the rumors of barium being in some of these spraying things like that, being or perhaps like in the UK, as a matter of fact, they have given the green light to some company to actually put out materials that is going to refract the sunlight back towards the sun. I mean, what do you make of these things?
So that's absolutely a strategy. And what do I make of it? I think we have to be, sometimes what happens is that we see an award for an investigational activity, a pilot project. And we say, oh, I can see that award, and therefore this must be a general policy, when in fact it was just a pilot project. That happens a lot.
That does. Yes.
And so it leads those of us that are trying to make sense out of the world in a world that is not open and transparent to us. It leads us to conclude the worst, and that's an error that we often make. And so, but the if you step back from your question and say, what are you really asking? What you're asking is, hey, we, the residents of terrestrial Earth, deserve to know the composition of any material that's being sprayed into the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
That seems pretty fair.
Yeah. It affects everybody. So yeah, absolutely.
And that's the kind of thing, we have this Florida ban on this kind of weather modification.
I saw that. That is excellent.
And it would be nice if the governor could back that with a forced disclosure of the nature of the material that the state is known to the state of Florida to be deployed.
That's what we want to know. What's in that stuff that they are spraying out there.
And why shouldn't we?
Exactly.
This is one of the I think most important lessons of modern information disclosure in 2026 and going forward in the world of modern social media is, if you don't, in your disclosure, in your, these words like radical transparency are being thrown around by people that are anything but radically transparent.
You got that right.
So in 2026 and beyond, if you don't disclose, somebody else is going to fill in the blanks.
Yep.
Because that's the nature of this new decentralized media ecosystem, which, by the way, I am so grateful for. Thank you, Elon. Whatever your faults, thank God for X, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But I think a core principle now is that, particularly in government and public policy, if you don't disclose it, other people are going to fill in the blanks, and whether they get it right or wrong, that is going to become an established narrative. And
that's where a lot of conspiracy theories come from.
I don't think in media management, which is, we have a whole cadre of people, PR people, we call them, or, the press corps or whatever. The old style spin, where you take some little fragment of information and you frame it, and then you put it out to the people and try to get the New York Times to pick it up and regurgitate it, or whoever, Atlantic Monthly or whatever. That's no longer working.
Nope.
And I think it's our job, those of us in the, we have these labels, influencers, social media, etc. I think one of the most important things we can do is force the bastards to disclose. And I'm uncomfortable. I prefer that we frame things as hypotheses rather than as conspiracies.
I like that too. Educated guesses.
Yeah, but nonetheless, forcing authority to become more open and transparent, I think, is in the interests of all of us as citizens of the world.
Yep, absolutely. And that should be one of our top priorities.
Absolutely. And so if that means that some of us are going to go a little extreme out on a limb and say stuff that is wrong. So this is one of the things that's covered in this essay that I'm about to drop, is this is the lesson of the Ash experiment. Remember the Ash experiment? Where you have people in a room and you show them lines and you say, which one's longer? And clearly one of them is longer than the other.
Oh yeah.
But everybody, it's gamed. So you got a few people that are influential that are put into that, and they say, no, that one's longer, even though it's shorter, right? And everybody kind of goes, oh, I'm so intimidated. Oh, I guess that one's longer.
I'm gonna go along with it. Yep.
Yeah, they go along with the consensus. And then the other part of the Ash experiment that isn't talked about so much is if you put one dissident into that room, and that one dissident is willing to say, no, you're wrong. This is the king has no clothes. The one little boy that says the king has no clothes, and then suddenly it breaks the spell, and everybody can see that the king has no clothes. That is the Ash experiment in a nutshell.
Yeah,
the movie,
and that was a great experiment, by the way. That was great.
And that's our job. Even if we get it wrong, if we just break the spell by saying, no, something else is going on here, even if we get it wrong, that then allows an openness and an ability to think and evaluate information.
That is
whereas otherwise, you have what you end up with is the people of greatest status and authority determine truth.
I was bringing up the movie 12 Angry Men, when you had the one guy, the one juror who stood up.
12 Angry Men. You're showing your age there.
I was thinking, I'm like, I've never heard of this movie. So.
No, but I was old enough. Actually, I'm old enough that they actually made us do that play in high school, which they should do now.
Well, there's a lot of things they should be doing in American education.
There's a lot.
But
you're right. That is our job now, Dr. Robert Malone. That's why we had you on here, because you are very influential, and for you to go push against the narratives, whether they're whether we know everything or not, but to know that the narratives are not true, and for you to push against that gives everybody else cover to be able to push against it too.
Bingo. That's become my new job. I destroyed my consulting business by speaking out about COVID, and now my job is running circles around the quote journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times and Atlantic Monthly.
You're doing a great job. Great job.
Well, wait, along those lines, would you ever consider going back into something if they reconstituted the ACIP panel, or would you go back?
So ACIP is a special case of a real shit show. And the problem with ACIP, I mean, there's a bunch. I've spoken quite liberally about my opinions about HHS and the leadership there and its gross incompetence. There's been some changes, but there needs to be major reform at FDA and CDC. And I'm just not interested in stepping into a pile of dog shit. And
fair enough.
I'm just not interested in doing that. It's not a good use of my time. I got a notice the other day from the Social Security Administration. It came while I was in Israel, that I'm now eligible for formal retirement. I'm now 66 in 10 months. So point is, I don't have that many years left on this globe, and I don't want to spend it doing that kind of stuff.
No,
and,
I can understand.
And
I think you're doing the right thing here. You're doing what I think you were meant to do at this time.
Well, thank you. I'm having a hell of a good time doing it. And I love that I'm able to think about things, and that my Substack subscribers, it's really, I owe so much to our Substack subscribers and the people that buy our books. We've got a new one coming out, Homesteading for Health, that ships this week. But it's those people form a decentralized funding base.
Yes.
So I'm not beholden to any person. I don't have a big donor.
That's the best feeling, isn't it? That you are.
It sets you free.
Exactly. You are free. Exactly, and that's why you're able to say what you want on this show.
And I really value that freedom. I have the luxury of being able to think and write about my thoughts. And I wake up every morning, and my wife is actually brilliant. And the first thing we do, we make coffee, and then we talk about the events of the day. what a wonderful thing to be able to do when you're an old fogey like myself, is to being in a position with a mission to help other people understand the world and learn to think for themselves. I'm okay with that.
And you do.
And
You
I
help
would
tremendously. I mean, because like I said, you being a big influencer and also being very intelligent as a doctor, when you push back against certain narratives, it like we said, it gives other people like, okay, Dr. Robert Malone did it, so I can do it too.
and
Because
oh,
you
by the
are-
way, Jack, they hate it.
I know they do. That's
I
the
am
best
I am
part.
now like public enemy number one at HHS. Just
That
to
is
let you
the
know,
best part is that they hate it. So I love that. I love it.
I've been railroaded out of Maha, all because I wrote this tweet about a meeting that actually happened, having
Yeah.
to do with planning for when Bobby Kennedy leaves the administration,
Wow.
which probably, the way I'm hearing it now, probably won't happen. Apparently, the president really likes him, wants to
Really?
keep
He
him
sounds
on.
like he does. He seems like he really likes him.
Yeah,
It seems like he does.
but
Yeah.
as my wife put it, we now have Bobby Kennedy touring the country giving cooking shows. That is not usually the way that you use a secretary of HHS, but
Let me ask you. And thank you for spending this extra time with us. Let me
Yeah,
ask
we
you,
appreciate
if
that.
he were to leave, if he were to exit, do you have anyone in mind who you would want to take his place at HHS?
Wait. I want to piggyback on that too, because I want you to answer that question, but I also wanted to ask, would you ever take that job?
no. Hell no.
Well, there's that answer.
So what I want or don't want is kind of irrelevant. If Bobby leaves to run for president, which is what's in the wind,
Mhm.
I mean, the Maha organization now has created a PAC.
Really?
They've got a super PAC now that's just been launched. They have office space at 101 Constitution Ave, adjacent to Epoch Times offices.
Mhm.
They're gearing up. Right now, they're just focused on endorsing candidates, but the rumor is that they're getting ready to run Bobby. And I think it's a fool's errand, or it's a business model.
I agree.
Because
On both.
yeah, but be that as it may, Oz is the one that will get the nod unless something significant happens. His right-hand person is now the nominee for the deputy director. And I first met Oz at a CPAC meeting. It's like 4 or 5 years ago. And he was a television personality about to run for president.
I remember that.
I was not overwhelmed. He has really stepped up to the plate in his role at CMS.
He has. He really has.
And Chris Klump, who is the individual that I was talking about, who's functionally now the director of HHS. I mean, it's Chris Klump that runs the place. It's not Bobby.
Really? Oh, I did not know that.
Absolutely.
That's good to know.
Interesting.
So Chris has got his own advisor group around him. I'm not going to share who those are, but I know who they are. That they're the ones that's running HHS now.
Okay.
And so functionally, Chris was the one that came up with Trump RX and negotiated those preferred pricing schemes for the pharmaceutical. So the president has great faith in Chris Klump, and he seems to have brought a level of stability and sanity to an otherwise chaotic HHS.
Okay.
I live in the world of what can be achieved, not what would be optimal.
Yes.
And so I think that if Bobby decides that it's time for him to step aside and run against J.D. Vance, good luck on that. Then it's highly likely to be Oz. And I wouldn't have said this 4 years ago, but I think Oz is just doing a great job at CMS, and he would probably do a great job. And as a manager, he would be far superior to Bobby.
That's high praise coming high praise coming from you, because I know you're going to tell the truth, and that's what you're doing. I got to ask, now that everything that's gone on with COVID and everything in your past that has led you up to this moment, are you? I know I'm happy that those things happen, because you're here now, and we've got you to help the rest of the world along the way. Are you happy the way things are now, the way things turned out?
No, absolutely not. I mean,
Okay.
there's, as I was saying, talking about systems, and I've got 2 books in the wings right now in various stages of editing. One's called The Grift,
Mhm.
that analyzes what happened in COVID from the metaphor of grifting.
The grift.
And grifting applies all the way through and even more so. I'm gonna have to update the chapter on Fauci based on what we've learned.
You might have to do that
You
might have to do that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one is called The Chronic Rebellion, which traces the history of American populism and then feeds that into Maha and the trajectory of Maha.
What are those books coming out, actually, for everybody out there?
So I was hoping that the Chronic Rebellion one would come out before the election, but I don't think so. The Grift is probably more likely to come out in the first quarter of next year. The one that's currently out is Homesteading for Health, which is a totally different thing. My wife was the primary author of that, and it has a big section in the back of public policy and kind of how we got here. It isn't just about keeping chickens and pigs and raising vegetables. It's the first part of that book, Homesteading for Health, is kind of how people think, well, what's Robert Malone, physician scientist, doing writing a book about homesteading? Mm-hmm. What they don't know is that I was a farmer and a carpenter before I was a physician and a scientist. Really? I got my training. This is our 6th small farm. Yeah. I'm sitting. This studio is actually a 1945 pig barn.
It looks really cool. Built. We were talking about that earlier. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's the real thing. But
wow.
So my wife and I have a deep history of small farming and trying to make a small farm work, and lessons learned from that. But then we also bring, because we're both from UC Davis and have background in agriculture, an understanding of the policy positions that led us to this, and the history of policy. For instance, the Victory Gardens movement. Did you know that at the end of World War II, we were producing more agricultural product from Victory Gardens than we were from the established farms?
Wow. No,
and the government put in place a specific campaign and policy for people to stop their Victory Gardens, because it was making it so that returning veterans would not have jobs on farms when they came back, because so much of the food was being produced by people locally. We can get back to that.
On farms back then, or did
Pardon?
They need all the veterans?
They wanted the soldiers coming back to have jobs, mm-hmm. and they thought the jobs were going to be in the farms, mm-hmm. larger farms, but there was so much food being produced from small kitchen gardens, is what you called it. That the need for the agriculture output from the farms wasn't there. And so the government specifically campaigned that people should stop their Victory Gardens so that we would have jobs for returning soldiers working on the farms. Wow. And then in the 60s, we had Earl Butz. The whole, if you unpack what happened in American food supply, mm-hmm. the things that get talked about with the Make America Healthy Again movement, all of that got put in place under a guy named Earl Butz, Secretary of Agriculture, who came up with a set of policies, particularly under the Nixon administration, mm-hmm. That are termed in general, get big or get out. Farm fence row to fence row. Yeah. Feed the world. Supply the world. Well, the people that benefited from that were big ag, Wall Street, the manufacturers of big farm machinery, combines, tractors, John Deere, International Harvester. Those are the folks that benefited from that. It destroyed the agriculture that existed in a lot of the emerging economies because we got them to just eat our wheat and soybeans, which was not very healthy. It converted all of us to this highly processed food, big ag model, and it resulted in the destruction of kind of the as I said, promoted the destruction of small holdings, the small farmer, the small milk producer. And what happened with that, it destroyed the small towns.
Yep.
A lot of the cultural rot that is eaten out the flyover states, the Midwest, all stems from Washington, D.C. policies promoted by USDA for putting the interests of big ag above the interests of small decentralized farmers. And that is the core. That is one of the things we got to turn back. So the book talks about those kind of things, talks about glyphosate. It talks about wheat and how highly processed wheat has been so destructive for our health, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the Homesteading for Health book.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that book actually, everybody should definitely check that out. Can you tell people where they can get that book first? I think that book sounds like a great idea because everybody should homestead.
The proper thing I'm supposed to say is at all good booksellers, but the truth is, you get it from Amazon. You could get it from Skyhorse that's published it, but you're probably going to want to get it from Jeff Bezos. And that's just the truth of book selling these days.
It's true. That's where my book is also, Amazon. But I want to ask you real quick. I'm glad you brought up the whole food thing because there's a big question I wanted to ask you. Why does America allow all of the horrible things that are in the foods and the ultra processed foods or dyes or artificial flavorings and this and that, but and they're banned in a lot of other countries,
generally regarded as safe ingredients, GRAS ingredients. It has to do, so there's some fundamental differences in how the United States government through USDA and FDA has approached the issue of food safety versus, in particular, we often compare to Europe because Europe is the other large bureaucratized structure. And I suppose we could compare it to Canada. But comparing American food policy to, say, Mexico or Venezuela or Brazil, that those countries haven't built up a bureaucracy around food in the same way that we have. But it goes back to really, if you want to think about Maha as a populist movement, it goes back to what was perhaps the only other populist movement focused on food safety in the United States, which is associated with, for instance, the writing of Sinclair Lewis and what happened in the Chicago stockyards and what happened with the contamination of the milk supply. This is what triggered the creation of the FDA.
What did happen with that contamination?
So in the case of milk, there was a policy to make milk appear to be more fresh by adding a variety of cheap residues, kind of chalk, and feeding cows on in particular, what they did that triggered this was they were feeding cows with the products of brewing. So the yeast, and the cows were getting really sick, and they were producing really thin milk that had the wrong color,
Mhm.
And so then they started adding chalk and other things into the milk in order to correct the color. And that led to a lot of sick kids. And, and then the Chicago meat industry, the reveal was that there was basically, it was filthy. The way that meat was being handled and processed and stored was just grossly unsanitary. Material swept up off the floor, rodent feces, all kinds of contamination. And Sinclair Lewis wrote this book, I think it was called The Jungle, talking about the Chicago slaughterhouses. And it just outraged people to realize that they were being fed this contaminated product in the form of sausage and hot dogs and all kinds of things.
Well, what do you think about lab grown meat now then? Like with how he's trying to, Bill Gates has got this whole push towards lab grown meat.
I agree. And well, remember that the thing that kind of in parallel or preceded it was that we were all going to be eating crickets.
Yeah, that's true.
In insect-based protein. And this was a major investment thrust, and Wall Street and the globalists and Bill Gates, etc., was these growing insects for human protein. I don't know if you remember in Blade Runner 2, that was what the replicant, the big guy, was doing. Was he was growing those little grubs. I don't know if you remember seeing that movie.
I didn't see Blade Runner 2.
Yeah, so this idea of insect protein as a way to supplement the human protein stream for food has been around for a while. And so that business model failed. Those cricket companies that were going to be putting cricket material in our cornflakes and everything else, people were just like, hell no, I'm not going to buy that. And the companies collapsed.
Yeah,
and
thank God for the free market.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, what you just said is a profound truth. And it underlies all of these things we've been talking about.
Yep.
Which is that the free market is the only structure that's been developed that immediately translates ground truth into pricing. And all of these controlled economies, socialism, it's all about. This is a fundamental. I think Hayek is the theoretician, fundamental thinker in Austrian school economics, libertarianism, is the idea that as soon as you have centralized structures like Big Ag and the associated USDA and FDA policies, what happens is that you lose connection with ground truth. That's what happened on the border in Israel. Is getting back to this story is the beauty of free market is that it allows immediate correction based on local environmental situations. And no amount of central planning can ever get there, because as soon as the ground truth filters up, it gets edited, compressed, manipulated, spun. And then by the time it gets up to decision makers, what you've got is the information is totally bastardized. And so they make crap decisions because they don't really have the truth of what's happening locally.
I'm glad you brought up Israel.
That's what's going on in American agriculture is they've centralized. I mean, we're down to like four main slaughterhouses, all but one of which is owned by Brazilians or China. That's, the small farmer that wants to produce a product that you can go and buy is faced with a situation where there's almost no way that they can have their meat slaughtered so that it can be shipped across state boundaries, because the policy is that in order to do that, you have to have a USDA inspector. There are very few USDA inspectors. And in order to have a USDA inspector on your meat processing plant, You have to have a special office for him and all kinds of infrastructure. And so you can't afford it. And so the local abattoir isn't able to process meat from your local farmer in a way that can be shipped across the Pennsylvania border to New Jersey, even though somebody in New Jersey wants to buy it. And it, whose interest does it support? Well, it supports big ag, and it supports these foreign interests. And
I'm glad you
somehow we've got to fix that.
My last one for you. And once again, you've been so generous with your time with us.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Really. And after you just brought up again, after what you just experienced in Israel, I'm bringing it all the way back now. What do you think people on the far right, how should they change about the way they talk about Israel and this conflict in general after what you just experienced?
So I think that they, number one, take a deep breath. And all of this discussion about Israel being the puppet masters of the world, that just doesn't fit the information. It's so improbable. These folks, it's a very small population. They're under constant threat. They're basically forced into a situation of being surrogates of the United States, not the other way around. And I think we need to recognize that they are the ones standing with the wolf at the door as the barrier between us and radical Islam. They are, on the front lines. And I think that we ought to take a step back and recognize that these are folks that provide enormous benefits to the United States. If we're just going to be purely transactional, the Israeli military, one way it was put to me is if we didn't have Israel, we would have to have 2 battle carrier groups and 2 or 3 divisions more than we have stationed in the Middle East. We save a ton of money by enabling and working with partners in Israel. Israel is, they have one of their secret weapons, they don't even recognize themselves, is their really young state, and their bureaucracy hasn't had a chance to grow up to such a point that it's strangling the place.
Right. Not yet, right.
Right? It will happen. Right. But right now, they are a really dynamic entrepreneurial culture that stands in the breach between us and radical Islam. And let's stop kicking them in the nuts. Let's start recognizing that they even if you want to just be purely transactional, the United States gets a lot more benefit than a cost from this special relationship. And if we didn't have it, think about where we would be in terms of Middle East politics. We get a lot of benefit, and it's a smaller military, but it is for its size the best military in the world, and they have some of the best intelligence. Now, did they spy on us? Yes. Do we spy on them? Yes. This is the nature of nation states now, so I just think we need to take a deep breath and recognize that for all of our talk about self-reliance and self-protection, self-defense, that these people are out there on the frontier in a way that most Americans have no awareness of.
No. Yeah.
And we ought to try to give them the benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean that we ought to be sycophants. And
right.
I can tell you that one of the things about Israel is they are more critical of their politics than we are. They're
the paper headlines. Oh yeah.
It's like the joke, you get two lawyers in a room and you'll have five opinions. That's kind of the way it is
That's a good one.
with Israelis, and their politics are anything but settled. Netanyahu is in trouble right now for good reason.
The corruption
There's
case,
there's a lot of talk about where do they go from here, but recognize that they are grappling with real problems, and they are also in the middle of this. They have somehow enabled an amazingly entrepreneurial culture for which the United States and the rest of the world gets enormous benefits. A lot of our IT technology comes out of Israel. We think of Silicon Valley now, but a lot of those Silicon Valley major companies like NVIDIA and others have major operations now in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
The place is dynamic, and I think that we would be better served to be cooperating and working with them, and recognizing that they are grappling with really hard challenges, and for the most part, they're doing a pretty good job.
They absolutely are. And I don't want to take up you've already done an extra 36 minutes because it's been such a great conversation. We could talk with you all day. I got to say, we could do, we could just keep going, but I don't want to take up too much of your time because you've already been so generous with your time. We really appreciate it. I want to say that you have given many people, this show is on the front page of Rumble and Kick right now. So there's a lot of people that have been watching, and you've given many people a lot to think about, more than they ever knew, because most people just see the propaganda or see the headlines. They don't know the inner workings of things. They don't know what's really going on, and they can't put themselves there. They can't possibly imagine what's really happening. So with the whole Israel trip, with the Fauci thing, with the COVID and the Maha, you have given people a lot of excellent, truthful information here today. So we want to thank you for coming on our show and for giving us all that extra time. But before you go, we also want you to tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your books, how they can, reach you if you need to, or anything else.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. So you're giving me a chance to do a promo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead.
You gave us 36 extra minutes. Are you kidding me?
So on X and Truth Social, it's at RW Malone MD. Our main outlet for communicating with the world is malone.news, and that's a Substack, and you don't have to pay. You can subscribe without paying. But what we do to keep the trollery down to a dull roar in the comments section is we only allow comments from paid subscribers.
Makes sense.
And for those that do choose to be paid subscribers, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, you're what allows us to keep going and to do the investigative work we do. We write every single day, and it takes about half the day to do it. And, some of those are a little bit wonky. Some of those essays are written to influence policy. We have people on the Hill that read our stuff.
Wow.
Some of them are written, particularly from my wife, about homesteading. Just daily realities of what we're doing here on the farm. That's a series
interesting to read.
People love to read that stuff.
It's very interesting. I don't know. It's just so interesting stuff. Yep.
Yeah. So those are the coordinates, and then the books. There's 3 now. The first one is "Lies My Government Told Me and the Better Future Coming." That was a bestseller. Wall Street Journal bestseller. New York Times didn't review it. Then the next one is called Psywar, which is a deep dive into psychological warfare and how it was used during COVID and how it's used in the present. And then the third one now is Homesteading for Health, and I've just discussed that. And the 2 coming up are The Chronic Rebellion and The Grift.
That's going to be great. I cannot wait to see. I personally want to see the Grift book. I've been waiting. That's going to be excellent. I'm very interested in reading.
We have some interest in the movie area about that one.
Man, cool.
The elevator pitch is it's the intersection of The Sting and the The Big Short, and Chinatown.
Oh, wow. That does
Nice.
sound good. I'd like to see a movie on that myself.
Nice.
So yeah, we just want to thank you so much. I mean, you came on the show. We know you just got back from your trip from Israel last night. You still came on this show this morning with us, and you even gave us an extra 40 minutes of your time. So we want to thank you so much for coming on here. We really appreciate it. This is your second time on the show. You've been nothing but amazing with your information and the truthfulness that you share with everybody. So thank you for everything that you do. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys, and keep speaking truth to power, huh?
Will do.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll have to have you on again. We're going to have to keep having you on for as long as we can.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
You
you.
got
Have a
it.
great day. All right, man. That was awesome. I got to say, he is always, a wealth of information, but also,
Oh, he could talk about anything.
and we could talk to him all day. We could just sit here and talk to him all day because he's got so much information. He's such a smart guy and truthful. And that's what I love, is that everything he says, he doesn't lie about it. He's got no reason to lie about anything.
No, what he's telling you, he's telling you from his heart. Like he's not making stuff up. That's what he thinks. And
absolutely.
he's pretty,
And
I mean, like you said, the guy that can talk about anything from a knowledgeable standpoint. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. He's brilliant man. I want to thank everybody that watched on all of the social medias. We were on the front page of Rumble and Kick for quite some time, so there was a lot of viewers watching this episode. So I want to thank every single one of you on X, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Instagram, all of them, for watching the show. Real quick, I do want to mention our sponsor though, maxassociates.etsy.com, the #1 place for USA Pride gifts and patriotic apparel. Scan the QR code at the top right. Go to maxassociates.etsy.com. Right now, like I said, it's America 250. This is the 250th anniversary of America, plus the 2026 midterms coming up. Show everybody where you stand. Show the Democrats, show the liberals where you stand. Get something that is patriotic. Get something that shows your pride for America. Everything is 10% off and free shipping anywhere in the United States. But for Secret America viewers, if you were watching Secret America, you can get 20% off if you put in the code SECRET20, secret and the number 20, secret20. If you put that in there, you can get 20% off your order. maxassociates.etsy.com. And also By Design, The First Black President, the amazing book that tells the story of the rise of the first Black president through the lens of the point of view of conspiracy theories being the reality. Every conspiracy theory you've ever heard about the first Black president, it is the reality in this book. It's a part truth, part fiction book. And you definitely want to check this out because it is a cinematic thriller. It plays like a movie in your head. And it's something you do not want to miss. It has all 5-star reviews on Amazon, and people are really talking about it. It's making a lot of waves. SecretAmericaLive.com is how you find that. Make sure you guys follow us on X, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and Instagram. We need more subscribers and followers on Kick. We need more subscribers and followers on Instagram, but on all of them, really. But those two, we'd like people to definitely, anybody that's followed us on the previous ones, follow us on those two also, because it really helps show that we're making an impact. And that's why we do this show. That's why we do the show, is to make an impact. And that's why we were so grateful to have Dr. Robert Malone on with us today. We are live Monday through Friday, every weekday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So we will be live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. You do not want to miss it. Right here on Secret America. Jay, you got anything to say before we go?
No, man, that was amazing. That went so fast, over 2 hours.
Yeah.
But like you said, you could listen to him all day. He knows so much on so many things. I appreciate him giving us so much more of his extra time there. He just got back from a long trip. I'm sure he's exhausted, but that was amazing. And thank everybody for watching, and give us a follow right here at Secret America TV. And we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Absolutely. Thank each and every one of you for watching the show and for being fans of Secret America. We really appreciate it. We will be back and better than ever tomorrow night. And we are going to bring you more amazing content and more thought-provoking facts and theories that are going on all over America. For Jay Gatling, I am Jack Danger. Thank you for watching Secret America.
You've been listening to Secret America.